afternoon. This is Alice Li Hagen, host with Business Education Spotlight, ThinkTech Hawaii. Today my guest is Lieutenant Tanya Peacock. Well, now she is Dr. Peacock. She recently received her doctorate degree in International Management from the University of Hawaii Shidler College of Business. This is actually part of her assignment with the Army Medical Service Corps. She's had 18 years of experience in military healthcare and has received several recognition and awards. Thank you, Tanya, for coming to our interview. I've met you, when was it, 3 years ago when you were still a Ph.D. student, and I was running this international program for a group of Korean manufacturers, and you offered to help out, and then that's how I knew you. And then this year in February, I met you again, but in the capacity as a member of the American College of Healthcare Executives. So you've done many different things, and I think I will start off by asking you to tell us a little bit about your background and your career with the Army.
Thank you, Alice. It's really a pleasure to be here today, and I want to thank you for inviting me to be a part of the program. As you stated, I've been in the Army for approximately 18 years, serving in military healthcare. What actually brought me here to Hawaii is that I applied for what the U.S. Army Medical Service Corps has for long-term health education and training. And this particular program that I applied for selects officers for a doctoral program in a field within the domains of management or healthcare administration in order to fill faculty requirements for the U.S. Army-Baylor program in health and business administration.
Oh, okay. Now, so it sounds like I looked at your bio, and you've had a lot of degrees. You've had 2 master's degrees and a doctorate. So maybe first off, you just mentioned the Army-Baylor University. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the U.S. Army-Baylor program in Health and Business Administration was actually started in 1947 as part of a 3-month course, and then eventually it was further developed, and it gained an affiliation with Baylor University in Waco, Texas in approximately 1951. In 2005, between 2005 and 2007, the initial program was expanded to incorporate an MBA. And so now I feel very privileged to be able to come back and serve as a faculty member, because I was actually a student there between 2004 and 2006.
That's great. Now, hold your thought about your future position. I'd like to keep it till the end. But now, I guess before we started the program, you told me a little bit before your career in the healthcare side. Can you tell me about your master's degree in aeronautics science?
I have a master's degree in aeronautical science from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. The reason why I chose to pursue that degree is when I came into the Army, I knew that I would be very interested in flying, and I was fortunate enough to become a medevac pilot. And after several years of flying, I realized that I needed some additional education, and I thought that by obtaining a degree in a graduate level degree, particularly in aeronautical science, it would improve my understanding of not only airspace, but airport operations, management of airlines, so on and so forth. And so it was a very valuable degree for me.
Okay, so this is still a lead-in to healthcare management then, correct?
Correct. Now, what's great about the Army and being an air medical evacuation pilot is you have the benefit of both worlds. You can see the aviation side, and you also are exposed to the healthcare administration side. And as my career progressed, I realized that I wanted to learn a little bit more about healthcare, particularly since I had done a lot of assignments at the tactical level, and I felt it was important to understand how the patient travels through the healthcare continuum.
Wow, that's amazing. I was just wondering, how did you end up, from transitioning from aeronautical science to healthcare? So you always have something that surprised me. But coming back to the PhD journey here, was it very competitive to be assigned to become a PhD student?
Yes, it is a competitive program. For this particular program, the Army selects approximately 1 to 2 officers per year to participate in it. We were very fortunate my year because there were 3 people that were selected. And basically, some of the things that they look at is not only your military career up until that point, but they also take into consideration your aptitude for scholarly studies, looking at GMAT, GRE scores, so on and so forth, grade point averages.
Wow. Well, I can see why they chose you. Okay. Now, why Shidler College of Business?
Well, I knew that I wanted to get a degree in business because, as I stated earlier, my follow-on assignment upon completion of this program is to serve as a professor for the Army-Baylor graduate program in Health and Business Administration. And at the time when I went through the program, they were offering only the healthcare administration portion of the degree. Now that they also offer an MBA, I wanted to make sure that I was fully prepared in order to teach the students in any of the subjects that would be offered. So.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask you this a little bit later on, but since you mentioned that you went to the Army-Baylor University in the middle of mid-2000, how do you think things have changed in terms of, first of all, the courses, and then I'll ask you about the healthcare aspect of things.
Right. As far as the current program courses, to be quite honest with you, because I haven't, although I've talked, of course, with the program director, I'm not exactly sure how some of the requirements have changed. I can tell you that at the end of the program, we used to have a final project, and now instead of one final project, they're completing a portfolio of projects. And I think that was very well received, particularly by some of the leaders within the healthcare facilities, because that allowed that Baylor resident to provide or a way to apply their education on multiple fronts.
Right, and I guess we do that, I guess we call those capstone projects, and we do that with a lot of our MBA programs. But let's come back to your journey through your doctoral degree. So how long was your degree?
Now, as part of the Army program that I was involved with, we're required to complete our degree within 3 years.
So normally, how long say a regular civilian, how long does it take for them to complete the degree?
Typically, a PhD program lasts between 4 and 7 years. So it was a very aggressive requirement that the Army has for us. So it takes a lot of time and a lot of dedication, but I found my experience here to be wonderful at the Shidler College of Business. All of the faculty members were really willing to work with me. They understood the time requirements that I was under. They helped focus a lot of my efforts, and I'm really appreciative of that.
I'm just curious. Would you say you are the candidate who finished your PhD degree the fastest? Do you know?
For the Shidler College of Business, I believe I'm one of, certainly up there in completing it in record amount of time.
That's amazing. You really deserve the congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. Now, before you started the program, were there expectations that you had about the program?
Yes. I mean, I think an important consideration for me was the international aspect of the program. I really wanted to go to a school that I felt that I could learn about other cultures and how I could I felt that was important for me because I felt that that's something I need to do in my job in the Army, that all soldiers need to be aware of cultural considerations. I also feel that as far as expectations were concerned, I knew it was going to be rigorous, and I wanted it to be rigorous because I felt like if I went to a strong program, I can provide a better education for my students when I become a professor.
That's great. Now, can you tell us about the PhD program at Shidler and the process? Yeah, I'll let you start with the program in general first.
Well, sure. Well, I'll talk specifically about the program that I was involved in, and I say it in that way because the International Management PhD program does have some other specializations. My particular specialization was in management. However, there are other fields such as marketing, accounting, and finance, to name a few. So for the management degree, there was a minimum of 3 to 4 core management courses that I was required to take, and then I took a lot of statistics courses and also some elective types of courses, which I felt would be beneficial for later on. For example, I took an econometrics course and and some other types of mathematics courses.
Okay.
So.
Tell us about your dissertation then.
Okay. Another thing that I really have to say I'm very grateful for is that the faculty understood where I came from and where I was going back to. And as a result, they helped me, helped guide me to find a topic that I was interested in and that could be applicable for my employer. So the title of my dissertation is The Profitability of U.S. Defense Contracts, a study on implicit returns on military sales.
Okay, can you explain it in layman's terms?
Sure.
So what is that really about? Has to do with profit and loss, I think, and it has to do with selling of weapons?
Not necessarily
sorry.
weapons. No, that's okay. Really, I was looking at the largest firms that conduct business with the U.S. Department of Defense.
Okay.
And I think that's an important distinction in that a lot of these firms aren't necessarily in the arms industry. Some of them produce products that have nothing to do with that are not military specific as far as that is concerned. But I wanted to look at profitability, and I also wanted to look at it in terms of geographic segments, because like I said, I'm very interested in international operations, business operations, and so bringing in that international flavor was really important for me.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up because I guess from an outsider, general public, we always have this idea of, okay, business with government, it's certain sector, but then there are a lot of logistics, administration, and a lot of other products and services that the government require. Now, you were saying that the faculty provided you with a lot of guidance. Did you, when you came to the program, did you have an idea of this is something what you want to do, or did you come into the program still trying to research or explore what topic to research on?
I came into the program with an open mind. I wanted to glean as much as I could from the faculty, but like I said, I really felt like it was important for me to do some research that was relevant for my employer as well.
Okay,
so.
That's great. Well, let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Dr. Tanya Peacock, a recent PhD graduate from the University of Hawaii Shidler College of Business. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Martin Despang, and I'm the host together with the one and only Ali Yamashita, and our show is called Urban Transcendence. And Urban Transcendence is about identifying where we have a unique situation of a vibrant city in one of the most beautiful natural environments. So how these two can coincide, sometimes conflict, how they could find reciprocity in the 21st century is what we're excited about. And we're planning on bringing in a diverse body of guests, both from the arts and the science and the established and the wise and the emerging generation. So hope you will join us. We'll always be on Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Thank you.
Welcome back. You are watching Business Education Spotlight, ThinkTech Hawaii. My guest is Dr. Tanya Peacock. Before the break, we were talking about her dissertation as a Ph.D. student here at the University of Hawaii, Shidler College of Business. Now, Tanya, tell me about some memorable experience through this 3 years of very intense and rigorous journey of getting your Ph.D.
Let's see. I think one of the things that I cherish the most is the amount of time that I had to engage the faculty members one-on-one. They were always very willing to work with me. If I had any questions at any time, they would be willing to answer. Their door was always open. And actually one of the things that I thought was very interesting is that for example, my professor was willing to meet with me whenever it was needed. And as a professor in international business, he obviously travels quite a bit. And so we would chat over Skype. And I thought that was very interesting how he can be halfway across the world and still work with me on my paper and be that engaged. And so I really appreciate that.
How does this PhD experience compare with your two other master's degree that you took prior to this?
I think one of the things that distinguishes it a lot is that just the composition of my cohort, because particularly from the graduate level master's degrees, many of the people that I was in class with had either a very similar background as mine. Many of them were military. We had very similar points of view on things. And so when I came here, what I thought was very interesting is that the majority of people that I was in class with, many of them are from different countries, different cultures, and it was so interesting to talk with them. And yes, we have this shared experience of going through the PhD program, but we also bring so many other different views to the table. And so that's what I really enjoyed about being here at Shidler.
Oh, that's great. Now, I guess because of your unique situation that pursuing your PhD is part of an Army assignment. So how has that experience, your prior experience in the Army, kind of shape your way in pursuing your research, what you do at Shidler as a PhD student?
Right. I think, when you're in the military, you're used to a lot of deadlines, and you're used to ensuring that things happen on time and on schedule, and putting 100% into your work. And I really just took those values and applied them here at the college, and I found them to work very well for me.
Oh,
so
that's wonderful. But I was wondering whether this is more intense than your previous assignments, or perhaps it's a nice change of pace.
I think it's intense in a different way. Only because you have that. Yes, you have your academic pressures of meeting timelines and getting assignments in, but then again, as a healthcare administrator, you're responsible for people's lives. So it's two different types of pressure, I would say.
Yeah. Now, again, you just told us before the break that for somebody, a regular person, student who pursues a PhD, it takes from 4 to 7 years. Whereas in your situation, you had to complete your PhD degree in 3 years. But at the same time, I know that you are doing a lot of different things in the community. You are the president of the Silver Caduceus Society, and I think when I was looking at your bio, you volunteer with some other places. So tell us your magic trick of balancing your life, work, and how do you manage all these other volunteering commitments?
Honestly, it is a little bit tough, but I think the way that anybody who has a lot of interests and wants to be successful and work in different areas, the way that they do that is they surround themselves with good people. And I've really been fortunate in having a lot of good people that are working with me and support me. And like, for example, with the Hawaii Silver Caduceus Society, that's a nonprofit organization of medical service corps officers, and we seek to improve the technical advancement of the healthcare profession. And so I have some wonderful people that are working with me, and they've done a phenomenal job in organizing events and promoting the society and the benefits that it can offer.
What kind of events does the society run then?
Well, we've done a variety of things. We've worked with Habitat for Humanity and doing some philanthropic events. We've also done sponsored, for example, Brigadier General Doyle to come speak to the membership about career progression within the United States Army. So our events range from a variety of different things.
Okay, so when you were pursuing your other degrees, were you also that busy?
I tend to like to get involved, so I do try and find other things to do as well, because like you said, it's all about balance. You can't work 24/7 or you'll go crazy, so you have to find something else that you're interested in.
Wow. So what other interests do you have?
Well, I guess most importantly, of course, there's always family. So my husband is here. He's also in the military and works on 4th Chapter. And then we have 2 sons, Nicholas and Nathaniel. They're 4 and 7. And there's always something to do as far as helping out with school and sporting events and things like that for them.
That's amazing. Your husband must be really supportive. Wow. Now, your other volunteering commitment with ACHE, or the American College of Healthcare Executives, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. The American College of Healthcare Executives is one of the premier professional societies for healthcare administrators, and their job is to, once again, to advance the healthcare profession in order to improve the delivery of care to patients. And the American College of Healthcare Executives is a national organization. However, here in Hawaii, we have the Hawaii Pacific chapter of ACHE. And when I first moved here to the island, I really wanted to get involved with the community, and I was fortunate enough to be elected as a board member, and I've served as a board member for approximately 2 years. And we've come up with some great initiatives in order to, like I said, advance the healthcare profession within the community of Hawaii.
Now, I know I've never asked you that question, but it's, now, when was it? 3 weeks ago, I interviewed Coral here to talk about the Healthcare Executive MBA, Healthcare Management Executive MBA program.
Right.
But I also remember that when we had our first meeting in February at the college, you were the one who kind of initiated the meeting, you did the research, and I know you did a lot of coordination. Tell me what it was like from the ACHE side, because all I saw at the end was a meeting with you, Martha Smith, who's the CEO of Kapiolani Medical Center, and Cora Andrews, who's the regent of the Hawaii Pacific chapter of ACHE, and of course yourself. So
Sure.
Tell me that side of the story now.
Sure. As a board, we recognized that there was room for improving the communication between the chapter and students. And I think one of the first people to draw our attention to that was Martha Smith. Right now she's the immediate past president of the chapter. Now this January, Darlena Chadwick, the vice president over at Queens, she's now the chapter president, and she was also heavily engaged and really interested in moving forward with contacting the student population and making sure that there was a path for people and students and interested people to transition from a student to a CEO of a hospital. What we found out, just kind of looking at the education programs across Hawaii, is that there weren't any graduate level education programs that were being offered in the state of Hawaii that either had a healthcare concentration or in healthcare administration that was accredited by some of the accrediting bodies such as CAMI or AHUPA. And these are specific accrediting bodies for healthcare administration. However, we did notice that the Shidler College of Business was accredited by AACSB.
Okay, another accreditation body, yeah.
Yes, and so we felt it was important as a chapter to engage a university that was accredited in their specialty and that could provide our constituents with that higher level of education without having to leave Hawaii.
Okay.
So.
No, that's a great idea, and we've talked to Coral about that because with this program, then we provide graduate healthcare management program to the professionals here in the community, and that is going really well. Now, because the program is hybrid, most of the courses are online and there are some in-person sessions. But that brings me back to the point of technology, because earlier on you were saying that your faculty advisor, Dr. Ito, he would be halfway around the world and then he would be helping you with your thesis. And
right.
you just, it must be astounding that he makes the time for you. And technology plays a huge role, I believe, in a PhD degree and a lot of the programs nowadays. So I guess the question is, how else do you see technology, how has it make a difference for you in your 3 years of study here at Shidler College of Business?
Right. Well, I think it's an important way to supplement your education, if you will. I think people have different learning styles. Personally, I enjoy the one-on-one interaction, and the technological advancements nowadays really facilitates that a lot more. I know we were talking a little bit earlier about my master's in aeronautical science. For that degree program, and it was a number of years ago when I graduated, but I was looking at VHS tapes because I happened to be deployed halfway around the world, and that's how we kind of overcame the challenges associated with distance. And now there's just so many more improvements to what we were doing
Hang
before.
on, maybe you have to explain what a VHS tape. It's those big box of like cassette tapes that you have to stick it into the machine to watch the lecture. I see. Okay. So having Skype help, and what else in terms of research? Maybe you can tell us a little bit more. How did you do your research for your dissertation?
Okay. Well, through multiple discussions with my faculty advisors, I was able to obtain some data, which I thought would be relevant in answering the types of research questions that I was interested in. And so I feel very fortunate in that I was able to obtain that sort of data early on in the process, which I think really allowed me to complete my degree in a faster way. Because I think sometimes one of the challenges for PhD students is the ability to obtain relevant data. And so I feel very fortunate in that I was able to secure that type of data early on in my program.
So how did you obtain the data? Did you actually go out to talk to the companies, or is it based on research? How did you go about doing that?
The data that I used for my dissertation was already readily made open access data available on the internet, and then I also supplemented that data using other forms from the SEC and looking at the Securities Exchange Commission, looking at annual reports for the companies. So that's really where a lot of the time was spent.
So did you actually have to go out to interview companies?
I did not interview any companies for my dissertation.
Well, you know what, maybe we'll take a break here. When we come back, I'll ask you a little bit more about how the faculty has helped you in terms of preparing you for your dissertation, and of course the final presentation, a defense that you have to do. My guest here is Dr. Tanya Peacock. She recently received her Ph.D. degree from the University of Hawaii Shidler College of Business. We'll talk some more. We'll be right back.
I'm Hong Jiang, host for Asia in Review on Tuesdays.
And I'm David Day, host for Asian Review on Thursdays. Both of us broadcast our respective shows at 4 p.m.
And my topics tend to deal with questions related to environment, culture, history, and sometimes human rights.
And my shows tend to be on international business, foreign policy, geopolitics, and national security. And you can watch our shows live on the ThinkTech website at thinktechhawaii.com.
And you can also watch us on YouTube or Olalo.
So come join us on Thursdays at 4 p.m. I'm David Day.
And on Tuesdays at 4 p.m., I'm Hong Jiang.
Aloha.
Aloha. I'm Hong Jiang.
Welcome back. My name is Alice Li Hagen, host of Business Education Spotlight ThinkTech Hawaii. My guest is Dr. Tanya Peacock. We were talking about her PhD dissertation before the break. Okay, let's come back to this. Now, my question is, when you were working on your research, were there any point in time when you felt that what you wanted to do was different from what your faculty may have advised you?
Not really, and I say that because I think that my viewpoints and the way that Professor Ito, my committee chair, thinks about things is very much the same. And quite frankly, the person I have to thank for that is Professor Erika Okada. She was the one that when I came here and interviewed for the program, we talked about potential people that I could work with. And after talking with me for a while and knowing Professor Ito, she thought that we would be a good fit. And I really must say I think she was right. And so a lot of the way that we think about things is very much the same.
Tell us about Dr. Ito. I know he's really well known internationally because about a year and a half ago, when I was in Japan for a conference that has to do with the American Chamber of Commerce in Asia, I met a faculty from one of the Japanese universities. She said, "Oh, you're from Shidler College of Business. Do you work with Dr. Ito?" I said, "I know about Dr. Ito, but he is apparently very well known. Tell us about him."
He's a very well published individual, and he's had the opportunity to work with a lot of other accomplished professors from a variety of colleges.
What's his expertise in?
Well, obviously, international management. He looks at management from the macro level.
Okay. Wow.
And he's interested in corporations and subsidiary relationships.
Do do you have any works that are published between you and him? Because I know very often graduate students, especially PhD students, they help their faculty advisor in terms of publications and research. In your situation, is that part of your work?
Professor Ito and I have had the opportunity to collaborate on several projects, actually, and I feel very fortunate to have had him provide so much great advice. We currently have 2 papers that we submitted for a conference at the for the the Association of Japanese Business Studies, which is a conference in Vancouver, Canada, and then AIB as well.
AIB
which is the
stands
Academy of International Business.
Okay.
So
So when would be the conference in Canada then?
the conference is actually the last week in June.
Oh, okay.
So I'm really excited to be able to present our research there.
Okay.
And in addition, we also had another paper that was accepted at the Academy of Management meeting, which is scheduled for this August in Philadelphia.
You'll be busy traveling.
Yes,
And
yes.
of course, not to mention you are rotating to the next assignment. But let me come back to this. The focus has been on the faculty about your dissertation, but where is the Army? Where is the Army in all this? Do they just let you pursue your degree? Do they have a say in terms of what your research should be?
They have been very open and flexible with regard to our topic. The primary intent is for the PhD students to complete their degree in a timely manner. And I think they recognize also that people's interests are very varied, and there's room for that within the Army-Baylor graduate program in Health and Business Administration, because they require a variety of professors with diverse research interests. And so they allow us to pretty much pursue whatever type of topic that we're interested in personally, and that allows us to complete our degree in the time required.
So now that you have completed the degree, and I guess you have some downtime to rethink about your program, what are some of the things that you feel that you have learned and that you're able to bring it back to further your career in the Army?
Well, what I'm really interested in doing is continuing my research with Professor Ito. I think I really enjoy some of the different topics that we've explored together, and I think we can continue to work in those areas effectively, because the graduate program that I'll be working for, they highly encourage research by the faculty members. So I think they'll be very supportive of that.
Okay. Well, maybe we can perhaps remind the audience, now that you've finished your program and your next assignment will be?
As a professor at the U.S. Army Graduate Program in Health and Business Administration.
Okay. Now, looking back, and I guess going back when you started, you were a pilot. So is this a path that you thought you would be pursuing, or? I guess it's time for reflection, right?
Right. No, to answer your question, no. And I wouldn't say it would be a typical path, but I think it's one that fits well for me and for my family, and it meets my interests and my goals. The Army, I think, has been wonderful for me personally. I've enjoyed my time in the Army doing whatever type of assignment that's come my way, and I've been very fortunate in that I've had a wide variety of experiences, and for me it was important to give back to the Army, and that's part of the reason why I chose this program, was that I would be able to share my experiences in a way that I wouldn't be able to do in a tactical or a strategic sort of environment. Instead, I have a way to reach out to students one-on-one and share my knowledge with them, and I think that's wonderful.
It is. I can see that you'll be a great faculty. Now, I know that being a faculty is not new for you because earlier on you were mentioning that you've had experience teaching and being speakers at different events, and of course you had to present at different conferences. Tell us about those and some of the moments that you enjoyed or maybe not enjoyed as much.
Well, I think one of my most memorable times was when I served as an officer basic course instructor, which essentially means that that's the first type of education program that medical service corps officers get when they join the Army. And I had the opportunity to teach them a lot of the basic skills that you learn within the military. And just the interaction that you have with students is just so phenomenal because you tend to learn, at least I always felt that I learned just as much from the students as they do from me. And so I really enjoyed my time, particularly because of the way that the classes were structured. They were small, we got to know the students very well, and we had that time for that personal interaction, which I think is very important.
Now you've been to, well, I guess Shidler is a civilian university, but now you're going to the Army-Baylor University.
Yes.
What kind of students would you be encountering?
Well, there's the Army-Baylor program is the only federally accredited healthcare program out there. And that means that we get officers from the Army, the Navy, the Air Force. There have been VA students. There are sometimes Department of the Army civilian students. And so you get a lot of different perspectives on healthcare, which makes it a very interesting program. Also, you tend to get people that are within sort of mid-range within their careers. So they have different types of experiences, and also you'll get people of different specialties. Like, for example, when I went through, I had done predominantly air medical evacuation. So I hadn't worked in a hospital up until that point, but there were people working alongside me that were learning alongside me that had predominantly healthcare experience within a hospital setting. So to be able to talk with them about different issues like that was important.
Oh, that's great. Now, you will probably be in the academic path for a while, but at the same time, I know that you're really passionate about doing things, really be in the real life situation. So how do you keep abreast of what's actually happening in the healthcare field? Because, well, very often people will say, oh, well, the academic side is really very different from what is happening in a particular industry.
Right.
Do you see that there's a difference? And if that's the case, yeah, again, how do you try to make sure that you are updated?
Sure. And that's where I think the role of some of these professional organizations comes into play. Like we talked about earlier with the American College of Healthcare Executives, the ability to sit down one-on-one with CEOs and vice presidents of local facilities is really insightful. And I think it gives me a better understanding of healthcare, both as a healthcare delivery in the civilian sector and in the military sector, because I think there are things that we can share with one another, best practices, and those types of organizations provide that forum. I'm also a member of another professional organization, the American Academy of Medical Administrators, and their focus is slightly different, and I think each one of those organizations brings a different aspect of healthcare to the table, and so you learn a little bit more and more.
It's amazing. I can hear that you're going to be busy doing research, keeping up with all your community involvement, and being members and being active members of many of these associations. So when we come back from the break, I guess I'd like to ask you about all your degrees and what you think about that, and perhaps some advice that you may have for people who are interested or thinking about pursuing a PhD degree. Okay, we'll talk some more when we come back from our break. My name is Alice Li Hagen, and my guest here is Dr. Tanya Peacock from the University of Hawaii Shidler College of Business.
I'm Jay Fidel. That's Sharon Moriwaki of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum. And every Wednesday we have Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. We've been doing it for some time now, and we have some fantastic guests on there, unbelievable guests who give us insight into what is going on in a very complex, sometimes very confusing, sometimes very disappointing area of progress in the state. So we love doing this. We love meeting them. We love talking to them. We love having their ideas out on the table. So maybe, just maybe, we can all make some sense of what's going on. Sharon, what do you think?
I think that's absolutely correct. We enjoy ourselves meeting with all these people and hearing about the energy and the state of clean energy, and hopefully we advance clean energy for the state. So it's terrific. Join us.
Okay, it's every Wednesday. Okay, Wednesday is Energy Day. Every Wednesday, 4 to 5 p.m. Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, here on ThinkTech Hawaii. We'll see you there.
Thanks for joining us again. This is Business Education Spotlight. My guest here is Dr. Tanya Peacock. She just received her Ph.D. degree from the University of Hawaii Shidler College of Business. Tanya, we talked a lot about your Ph.D. program. Now that you have finished your degree, you're looking forward to your next assignment. With all your studies and your degrees, it is really impressive. At the same time, I guess among people in higher education, and I know this is a common discussion, that people are starting to ask, what is the value of all these degrees? And I guess recently there's an article that says that, well, university student, they were talking about the cost of college education, be it graduate or undergraduate. But the statistic here is pretty astounding, and they were saying that the cost of university per student has risen by almost 5 times the rate of inflation since 1983. And graduate salaries have been flat for most of the past decade. And they were saying that if these students have not been in debt, they probably would have been able to afford to get married, buy houses, start their own business. And of course, this is an ongoing debate of how we have accumulated so much student debt to the order of over $1 trillion, which is worth more than America's credit card debt. Now, I know this is kind of very, I guess, the opposite spectrum of what we've been talking about to pursue a higher degree, but there must be a middle ground. What's your perspective, especially for somebody who has had your bachelor's degree, your 2 masters, and now a PhD?
Right. Well, I think from a personal perspective, each time that I sought a different degree, it was to fill a gap in knowledge, and in order to attain a new position or reach a specific goal. And I think that's important. But I also think it's important that you strive to do something that you're passionate about. To get a degree just because you think you're going to make a lot of money with it, but you don't enjoy what you're doing, I don't think that's a recipe for success, personally. Now, the challenge is to find that balance, to find that thing that you're passionate about and you want to learn about, and hopefully it aligns with something that's going to give you some type of financial stability. And I think that's where research comes into play, and knowing yourself. So. Well,
you've put in a lot of hard work in pursuing these degrees and to progress in your career in the Army. But then, of course, I've also read in other articles about what make a PhD successful. You definitely mentioned the qualities, that you have to be passionate about it. This is not just all about money.
Right.
I guess it really depends on what you make out of it. Mm-hmm. And because sometimes I read that, okay, there are certain degrees that are not as useful or helpful, but at the end, perhaps it depends on how you make use of what you've learned and apply it, right? Now, so for those who are interested in considering pursuing a PhD degree, now that you've gone through the whole program, what would you advise them?
I think a critical decision is where you go, and what type of degree that you pursue, obviously. But I think also equally important is to find a faculty member that has similar interests as you and that can really move you forward. Along with that, I think it's important also to have a committee that gets along well with one another and has similar interests as well. Because I know we've spoken a lot about Professor Ito and how much he's done. And I would also like to recognize, though, the other 4 members of my committee for spending the amount of time that they did in order to improve my dissertation and improve my research. And I think I was very fortunate in that I had a great committee that brought each of them brought something different to the table for my dissertation, and I think that's what made it the quality product that it is.
Do you want to tell us who the other faculty members are?
Sure. Professor David Bess, Professor Dharm Bavuk, Professor Ronald Heck, and Professor Liming Guan.
Okay, that's wonderful. Yeah. Well, be sure to let them know to watch the interview. But my last question is, now that you're going to Army-Baylor University, what do you think will happen 5 years from now?
Oh, that's probably one of the tougher questions for this afternoon. You know, I'm not really sure. I know that at least for the first several years, for sure, I'll have the opportunity to teach at the U.S. Army-Baylor program. However, you never know what kind of opportunities may present themselves. So we'll see.
That's great. I hope that I'll have a chance to talk to you in a couple of years and check back in with you. It's been great talking to you, and all the best for your future endeavor. Thank you so much, Tanya.
Thank you.
Well, that ends our interview with Dr. Tanya Peacock. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week.